you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And a quick note, we did have a guest scheduled, Pierre. Georges Larac was supposed to join us here on the Eye Test today at 4:15, but he just texted in right before and said he cannot make it today. However, he has rescheduled with us, so we will have Mr. Larac joining us on the show tomorrow. Of course, he's got strong ties still to the Edmonton Oilers, so we can recap game one from tonight, which will be the Edmonton Oilers in Dallas, take on the Dallas Stars. We'll get to that game in a bit, Pierre, but let's look back on last night and also just want to talk about some coaching stuff and players, mentorship and all that. We'll get into that in a second, but just quickly, right off the bat, Pierre, I mean, as I said to you when we spoke earlier today, and it's no surprise, we knew this is how they were going to come out in the conference final. The Florida Panthers just simply suffocated the New York Rangers. I tweeted it last night at certain points, and this is a constant thing with the Panthers in this playoff run. Their opponents just look like they're skating in quicksand, Pierre, and they look so befuddled. Like their faces look like, what is going on? How do I get out of this? And it's just like they're just baffled, and that's sort of how I felt the Rangers were last night. So just your take as well, Pierre.
Can't overreact to one game. Obviously, the Rangers losing on home ice, that sends a little bit of a message to their team. Peter Laviolette now has a captive audience to work with. If his players weren't believing how good Florida is before the series started, they're believing how good they are now. I was really disappointed in the Ranger forecheck game. I was really disappointed in the Rangers' physicality wise, and I was really disappointed in the Rangers in terms of how they came out of their own zone. I didn't think they came out of their own zone clean enough. And those three things are going to have to be major adjustments for Peter Laviolette. And then the fourth one is the lineup.
Yeah.
You know, we thought that Matt Rempe should probably watch game one to see how game one played out. Well, we saw how game one played out. Matt Rempe better be in the lineup for game two.
I agree 100%, Pierre. And I like what you talk about the physicality and the forecheck lacking there. A question to you, just as a coach, we always talk about teams, and you heard a lot of them say this coming in, and even yesterday when we had Molly on, she was discussing it. Teams don't want to change their identity to cater to the opponent, but when you're playing an opponent like the Florida Panthers, who have such a strong physical identity and such an ability to kind of trap like the old New Jersey Devils almost, how do you balance that, Pierre, where you don't lose who you are, but you have to counter that somehow with physicality from your own guys? Well,
physicality matters a little bit, but no, I'd say the biggest thing is speed. So you can't be a slick, cute, fast team. You got to be a fast, hard, determined team, north-south, not east-west. So you got to gain the line, use a stretch pass, use chip chase and check hockey, whatever is required. But the biggest thing is you got to get the puck in behind their defense, and you got to force them to go 200 feet, and you got to make their defensemen feel uncomfortable. Gustav Forsling's been a revelation. He's been outstanding the entire playoff.
Not to you. I'll give you credit.
And I know, but it's okay. But he's been great. He's been great. As much as they're giving the treatment to Adam Fox, they got to give the Rangers do. They got to give the same treatment to Gustav Forsling. Mm-hmm. He's playing easy minutes. There's no physical edge against him. So, this should not be a hard between game adjustment for the Rangers coaching staff to make. It should be really easy. If there were other things, tactical things that I was seeing, I'd say, okay, this is going to require a little bit more in terms of fixing. There's nothing tactically that Florida's doing that's surprising the Rangers.
No.
It's the Rangers, and you said it best, Jimmy. The Rangers have an identity, but now they just have to change a bit of it. They're not going to be able to just gain the line with possession and just dominate off the rush. Right. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you want to still use your speed because that's one of their calling cards, but you got to chip it. So I would not let Bobrovsky even handle a puck. I'd just do short side shoot-ins, get everybody attacking the puck probably by the hash mark to the icing line on the forecheck, and just go to work from there.
What, in your opinion, was Florida doing, or maybe the Rangers weren't doing enough to accomplish it, but what did you think Florida was doing maybe to stop the cycle of the Rangers, Pierre? Because as we saw against Carolina, that was their bread and butter, especially in Game 6, when they won that game down there. It just seemed like they could not get that going. And obviously you got to get it into their zone first. But when they did, it was very difficult for them to do their thing down low.
Really good point. Very good point. And so what I would say, Jimmy, it's pretty simple. Florida was supporting the puck. They had 5 guys below the top of the circle, and they were supporting the puck.
Mm-hmm.
If the puck was rimmed from the right side to the left side, the center was coming over to support, and the offside wing was coming over to support. That winger was never left by himself. The Rangers could never generate a forecheck.
Right.
They couldn't generate a forecheck because Florida just moved the puck, and they weren't making 40-foot passes. They were making 7 to 10-foot passes. So the puck support was fantastic. And I thought the entire night, and nothing speaks louder to that than the own goal by Alexis Lafreniere. Look, he's been trying to make a play. But I made a point on a TV show I'm doing for the NHL called Stanley Cup Central, which is on YouTube every night. I made the point, they're a step slow all night. If you look at the goal, he's a step slow, and that's why he can't control the puck.
Yep.
And that was his team. It wasn't just him. His whole team was a step slow the whole night.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the other thing I want to say too, Pierre, I know it's hard sometimes when we look at shots on goal and you say, oh, Bobrovsky wasn't really tested. I don't think that's necessarily fair to him because I thought there were points in the third period where the Rangers gained a bit of life. They got some quality scoring chances, and he delivered. And to be honest, Pierre, when I'm evaluating goalies, sometimes I'm more impressed with the guys that can make those big saves after not seeing a lot of action all game, where it's easy to kind of just not fall asleep, but, kind of just get in. Okay, I'm not going to have a lot in front of me here. It's, we'll just hang out here. No, he stays awake and he stays in this game. He stays focused. And when it finally came down to him having to step up, he was able to do it. So credit to him too. His stats, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember hearing last night just how he has been dominating since game 5 of the Bruins series. Like he's just been unreal. Even in that game that they lost, that was a win for the Bruins. He was still great in that. And he's in his zone right now.
Oh, he's been in his zone for a while.
Yeah.
Ever since he replaced Alex Lyon.
From last year.
Yeah. He's been in a pretty good zone.
I know, right? He's a Vezina Trophy candidate again.
I don't know. He's been really good as far as I can see. You know what gave it away, and I get it. Everybody's got their own opinion. But when Braden Schneider had the breakaway in the first period, and they're like, well, the goalie never moved. No, you know why he never moved? Because he knew that guy was going to shoot the puck wide or was going off the post because he had the angle played.
Exactly.
He knew. It wasn't like he was surprised. The only thing he was gearing up for was, I'm taking away the whole net. So the only way he's going to beat me is on a deke. Mm-hmm. And Snyder's a defenseman. He's not a forward. I think if that's Zibanejad or if that's Kreider, or if that's Panarin, obviously, I think they're not shooting that puck there. You see how far out of the net he was?
Yeah.
That was a defenseman. And I was surprised at that point wasn't raised last night on the broadcast or in between periods.
I forget who it was. I don't even know. It might have just been a fan tweeting to me, mentioned that. And they said, why doesn't he go in and deke and go upstairs like Zacha did? And they were saying not enough people. Zacha did in game 6, that is. Yeah. And they're saying, not enough players. Like teams aren't seeing that he can be beat top shelf if you go in and try and deke him that way, get him on the backhand or go up and above. He's shown a tendency to leave that open, but for some reason, teams are not utilizing that weak spot there. But hey, maybe they weren't seeing that spot open last night because he looked like he was a wall between those pipes.
He was big. I mean, he plays big. The one thing he can't say is that he looks small in net. He looks big in net, and it's not because of his pads. He's on the angle. He does a really good job. The Luongo brothers and Robbie Tallis have done a really nice job reeling him in. Which is their goalie program down in Florida. And to be fair, it's a little bit like when you're playing for Jacques Lemaire or when you're playing for the late Pat Burns. Mm-hmm. The defense is good in front of you. They're going to block a lot of shots. Right. And they're going to keep everything to the outside. And so all you need to do is make the initial save and make sure you have good rebound control.
Yep.
I think about Marty Brodeur, obviously. I think about Chris Terreri playing for Jacques. You go down the line. I think about Felix Potvin in Toronto when Pat was there, and they had some good runs with Felix. It was about making the initial save and make sure you controlled your rebounds. And if you did, you weren't going to get scored on very often, and you weren't going to have a lot of high-quality chances against.
For sure. All right. So one thing I want to bring up here, and I've been touting him all playoff long, Anton Lundell, and the sort of the player he's turning into. We all knew he's going to be a good player, right? We all knew he's a highly drafted pick, but still, he's come into his own. He's playing a great 200-foot game. He really just has so much poise and confidence out there. And so after the game, Paul Maurice was asked about that and, kind of what he's been doing to kind of help Lundell find his game. And Maurice quickly gave credit to Matthew Tkachuk and talked about the importance of having a player mentor on the bench with you in between whistles or in between shifts, just kind of giving you tidbits, letting you know what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right out there, and encouraging you. And I thought it was very interesting, and it spoke to what we discussed yesterday, Pierre, about players policing the locker room and the bench. So let's listen to this quote.
Actually contribute to the cohesion of that line. That looked pretty strong throughout the game.
It's +3 at the end of the game. He made one play. That's just the coach. What an ass. I was going to say, he made one play I didn't like, and that's what I bring up, right? The guy played a hell of a game. He's +3, and I'm going to bring up the play I didn't like. There's some leadership going on there, too. So the things that make Matthew Tkachuk special is you can take a guy who's kind of coming into his third year, give him that shot, and he's encouraging that kid on the bench. He's directing, he's intense with him. So Anton Lundell feels now as a guy in really his second full hard year in the NHL in terms of playoffs, that he can contribute, he plays, and he drives. Now his expectations of himself change, and that's not the coaches. That's the most important person in a player's life is the guy sitting beside him, especially when you're young. That's where the real mentorship happens. I can tell him about systems and things like that. But Matthew will say, when you come in under that puck, roll your hips under here, get under that puck. That's stuff I can't teach. So really liked Anton's game, except for the one play in the second period. And then I think Matthew would be the guy that you have to talk to, and Sam Bennett at times as well, for making the move as a player at a very young age. He was really good tonight.
I love that. The most important guy is the guy by your side on the bench. That was great. And that's exactly what you were talking about yesterday, Pierre.
I've been talking about it for a long time. I've seen it firsthand. It works. I don't need somebody to tell me numbers. I just need to know what the guy says. And I'm so proud of Paul Maurice for saying that. That's a really good soundbite that every young coach should have to listen to.
Yep.
Every scouting director should have to play it for his staff. And every single guy that's part of an organization should say, why can't I be like that?
Exactly.
Why can't I be like Matthew Tkachuk? It's a brilliant soundbite. Congratulations to Paul Maurice, 1, for winning game 1 with his group, and 2, for saying what he said. It's long overdue for people to acknowledge that. And I've been saying it to you since we started this show, and I've been doing media since 1998, and I've been trying to tell people that ever since I started doing it, because it's one of the things. Sam Flood at NBC had this really good line. Take people when you're doing a game to places they think they've been, but they've never gone, and they'll never have a chance to go. Mm-hmm. So take them inside the dressing room. Take them on the bench. Take them to the ice surface. Take them and tell them things that they'll never get a chance to be a part of, but they can learn from.
Oh,
and all Maurice did last night was really good.
He's really his post game pressers are must watch for sure. But I just love the inside stuff like that.
That was his most useful. The other ones are kind of comedic, and it was a really good message for young coaches, for young management people, for scouts, for players. It was really good. It was really
good. And I'm listening to that just now again. I mean, I listened a couple times last night, and then I sent it to the guys today, to our great production crew to have for us. And Pierre got me just thinking about the team I cover and how much they missed a guy like Patrice Bergeron on that bench. I mean, I remember Montgomery at various points this season admitting, I miss him because of he would do what Tkachuk did there. He would take guys aside. He would just encourage them, or he's just always chirping on the bench. Not like Brad Marchand isn't doing that. He does it as well, and credit to him for doing it. But, there's certain guys, I think certain players or certain leaders that just can sense the pulse a little more than others. And Matthew Tkachuk clearly can do that for the Florida Panthers. So, like you said, great for Maurice to bring that up. Pierre, quickly before we get to game 1 in the West today, I'm going to stay on the coaching topic here. Now, last week, we both were wondering, would Marco Sturm get promoted in LA? Of course, that job went to Jim Hillier, and now we're hearing that he might go to San Jose. Of course, he played with the Sharks there. Supposedly he's interviewing. I don't know if that was today or tomorrow, but he will be interviewing for the head coaching vacancy in San Jose. And he made it very clear that he believes he's ready to be a head coach in the NHL. So let's play this clip from Sturm.
It makes me so happy that these guys made such a stride under my belt, and again, those are my kids, and I'm gonna keep going with them and keep pushing them to be a king one day, and that's my job.
Are you going to keep going with them, Marco? This is a pivotal summer for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors, right?
There are.
There are rumors. Yeah, no, we'll see. I mean, it's nice to have a little attention. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm ready to take the next step. I love what I do. I think I'm a really good head coach, but we'll see. But
at the time that you came here, you specifically talked about wanting to be a head coach. Now, having 2 years under your belt, could you see a scenario where you would go back to the NHL as maybe an assistant and work your way into a head coach, or you'd rather stay here as a head coach and wait for a job up top?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I'm a head coach, and if nothing works out, I'm going to be here, and that's where I want to be. That's not my goal to be assistant. I think I am a better head coach than assistant, and I'm going to keep right that as long as I can.
Sounds like he's ready, or he wants to be ready, Pierre. Do you think he's ready to take that leap right now?
I'm going to do something that I don't usually do. I'm going to tell you a quick little story about the 2018 Olympics.
Great.
In Pyeongchang, Korea. Marco Sturm was the head coach of the German team. They actually found their way. I don't know how they did it with the roster that they had, but they did it. Mm-hmm. They got to the gold medal game. And with about a minute and a half to go in that game against the Russians, they actually had a lead. They had a 3-2 lead with about a minute and a half to go.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Steinberg's brother iced the puck. And the Russians won the face-off, and Nikita Gusev scored with about 59 seconds, a little less than a minute to go to tie the game. Mm-hmm. And eventually the Germans had chances in overtime. They took a penalty, and Kirill Kaprizov scored in overtime to win it for the Russians. I was crushed for Marco. I was standing right there. I've known Marco for a long time. And I'm watching, and it was so cool. I talked to you about Jimmy Pack and how the Korean players came over and saluted him. The German players basically did the same thing to Marco. And he was the head coach of that team. And they got a silver medal. I mean, it's unbelievable that they got a silver medal. They did. And I know it was a non-NHL Olympics. I understand all that. After it was over, I contacted somebody, a friend of mine in the LA Kings organization. And I said, can you get me Marco Sturm's contact info? I want to send him a note. And I did. And he sent me a note back that was unbelievable. Do I think he's capable of being a head coach? The answer is yes, I do. I've watched his teams play in the American League. I've obviously watched him coach internationally. I've watched him play a lot, whether it was World Junior or NHL in a lot of different cities. He's got a lot of experience. Do I think he can be a head coach? The answer is yes, I do.
Yeah, and Pierre, I just think I haven't been around him personally in about, I'd say since that Olympic year. Actually, I bumped into him in a tournament when I was working with USPHL. He was coaching a team out of Florida, and we caught up there. So that was 2018. So that was right before the Olympics, I guess, or right after. And anyhow, I don't know. I haven't been around him enough lately, but I'm just going based on what I knew covering him as a reporter when he's with the Boston Bruins. His enthusiasm was just so contagious and so amazing. I think it would be perfect for a team like San Jose, who's got so many kids coming in now, and you're just trying to build a culture right now. You're not trying to win and get to the playoffs. You're just trying to establish the groundwork for your culture going forward. I think he's the perfect guy at the perfect time for them.
I think he'd do a good job for them. I think there are other guys too. I think Matt Carl would be, David Carl, Matt's his brother. David Carl, I think, would do a good job. We've talked about some of the guys. I think Rand Pecknold, if he got an interview, especially with Colin Graff having signed there, coming out of Quinnipiac would be another guy. I think there are a bunch of guys, Jimmy, that could do it. But Marco, to me, if he's really interested in that, because I can tell you from experience, when you take a job like that, you have to hope the owner understands. And it's a German owner, which is good news for Marco.
Yes.
Yeah, but you have to hope the owner understands this is not going to be easy. And there are going to be a lot of bad nights.
Yeah.
Well, if you're buying my plan, you got to buy it. You just don't buy half of my plan and then punt me. And that's the hardest thing that I've seen over time when guys go into those reclamation situations. If they don't get the full backing of ownership, I don't care what the manager does. If the owner's not buying it, it's not going to work.
No, it's not. But you look at Montreal right now, Pierre, and you've said it 100 times.
The owner bought it.
Wilson bought it, and he's sticking with it. You know, they've had their bumps. It hasn't been easy. It's taken a while, but he's sticking with it, and that's key. I'm with you on that. And the other thing too, Pierre.
Let me give you one more. How about what Mr. Dolan's doing in New York? When Glenn Sather and John Davidson and Jeff Gorton went to him and said, look, we're not going the right way. We got to strip this baby down, and it's going to be painful, but let's send a letter to our season ticket holders and our fans. And they did that letter, the infamous letter. It's pretty good, right? I mean, you know, they had one bad year and a half.
Then Aaron fell in their lap, so but they stuck with it.
It's all part of the deal.
Yeah.
But you know, they've drafted well too. You can't say they haven't drafted well.
They have. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And plus, you know, Sturm's connections too to the Sharks too. There's a history there.
So there's a lot there. But my only concern again is when you're going in that, and Marco's a good coach, and you talked about his passion. If you're getting mixed messages from ownership or management, scary. You know, it's not about the money at this point. It's about, do you want to do it or do you not? And are you going to be supported to do it?
Here's one other thing as you're saying that, I think, and one little wrinkle that could screw that all up. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just stating the reality of the situation, Pierre. So we reference Montreal. We reference New York as a model to look at, where an owner stayed with his GM and stayed with the coach and gave them the chance to do what they laid out to do. San Jose is not those two markets. And San Jose, for a while, was a really good hockey market. You experienced it firsthand, Pierre, broadcasting so many games from there. But it's rough times there, not just in terms of the hockey team and filling the building, but the economy right now in San Jose and the rents and the property prices and everything going on there right now. It's hard to get people in the building. So I wonder, is that going to kind of test the patience of the owner maybe than it would in a market like Montreal, so to speak, where, you know, the fans are going to pack the building, whether they're, you know, 10-70, whatever, and have 10 wins all year. They're the Canadiens fans. They're going to pack that building no matter what. That's not going to happen in San Jose.
No, but they've got something that a lot of teams don't have. They got Macklin Celebrini coming, and they got Will Smith coming.
Yes.
And so you've got, even though the team might not win, you've got guys that are going to be electrifying to watch. And that's part of being a captive audience with a rebuild, is to give them something that they're going to enjoy, that's going to be appealing to them, that's going to give them hope, and not false hope, not fool's gold. You know, we've been firm, but all of us, firm but fair with San Jose. Yeah. Sometimes their fans don't like it. Tough banana.
Yeah.
It's the reality, okay? Your team was bad this year, and it was not a reflection on the coach, who's a very good friend of mine, not a reflection on him at all. It was a reflection on the roster that the coach was given, which was no good.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to change it, and I give them credit for that, and they will change it. There will be changes this season, and it'll be good. There'll be positive changes, and that's exciting for the fans there.
You can sell the youthful exuberance
Well,
there.
that's what they're going to have to do, and that's okay. That's good.
That's good.
I know the Edmonton Oilers for years sold this thing about the young guns and the boys in the bus. It worked really well.
It worked. Well, good segue there. Let's get to that series right now, Pierre. Of course, it kicks off in Dallas tonight. Some injury updates. Rupi Hintz will not be playing for the Dallas Stars in this. Jake Ottinger, despite leaving practice early yesterday with an illness, will be starting for the Stars. No surprise there. I don't know what the illness was or how good he is right now, but he's good enough to play. So that's good for the Dallas Stars. Let's start on the Oilers side, though, Pierre, because I don't think many people right now are giving them much of a chance in this series. And understandably so. Dallas is the favorite, and they earned that. But, I don't think by any means this is a 4 or 5 game series. I think the Oilers can push this to 6 or 7 if, as we were talking about the New York Rangers, they stick to their identity and they execute it early and often in this game 1 tonight.
One of the problems for Edmonton is they don't get a lot of supplemental offense. So their depth players, they play, but they don't provide offense. So Pete DeBoer knows that, just like the fans know that. So this is going to be a matchup series in their top 6 guys. And part of the problem when you play Dallas, now that they went out and got Tanev, Esa Lindell and Chris Tanev are going to play a whole lot, against Hyman, against McDavid, against Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I would imagine, especially when you get last change in Dallas for the first 2 games. So that's going to be hard. And you've got to remember that Edmonton's coming off a very emotional and very hard 7-game series with Vancouver. So this is one of those series where I wouldn't overreact to game 1 if I were an Oiler fan, unless, they go in there and do something unbelievable in terms of winning. But it's not going to be – this is going to be a tough one unless they start getting some offense from their depth players.
Yeah, I mean, Pierre, I'm just looking right now. I got the lineup pulled up here for the Oilers. And what you got there, your bottom 6 is Fogley, McLeod, Ryan, and then Yarmark, Carrick, and Brown. At least 2 of those 6 have to deliver, I would say. Like you need to have that scoring come from there, because for everything you just pointed out there, Pierre, it just you can't. And the problem, I think, right, the reason that Edmonton hasn't been able to get over the hump so many times has been because they've just been so top heavy. And unfortunately, that was not fixed enough, I think, heading into this playoff. But now you got what you got there. So you got to tell those guys, hey, this is on you. You guys got to go out and deliver for us right now.
That's part of why Edmonton hasn't done well. I would agree with you, Jimmy. The other part is their defense wasn't very good, and their defensive schemes weren't very good, and their better players didn't want to play defense. Connor McDavid wasn't great defensively. Leon Draisaitl wasn't great defensively. So, that's part of it too. People don't want to talk about that, but that's a reality. I remember doing a game in St. Louis one night. Todd McClellan was a coach of the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm telling you right now, they didn't just get beat. They got wiped out. And they got wiped out because their best guys didn't want to play defense.
Yeah.
I know Todd was really upset. That was one of those where I was like, whoa, I wouldn't want to be on the charter after this. So that's been something that's been going on for a while there in Edmonton. Those guys got to check in and say, okay, I'm going to help everybody. I'm going to play the same way everybody else has to. We'll see how that goes. But I think they're better defensively.
Yeah,
Scotty Bowman was on the other day, and he said he was really proud of Paul Coffey and the way Paul's been coaching. Mm-hmm. I've been telling him that before Scotty came on. Yep. Paul's made a difference there. He deserves a lot of credit. I'm really happy for Paul. He's done a really good job there. I had the privilege of working with Paul when he was a player, and he was a much better defender than people gave him credit for. Yeah. He understood the position better. Everybody just thought he was a rover that would jump in the rush and get points, but he was much better defensively than people wanted to give him credit for.
He seems like, Pierre, and you know him personally, it seems very cerebral too. Am I wrong?
No. When it comes to hockey, extremely cerebral.
Yeah.
He did a lot of really I like being around Paul. But he was the first guy in the rink every day. He was the first guy in the bike after games. He was a worker. Paul was in amazing shape. He really was, and he cared about the game, and he took care of the trainers. He always looked after the young guys. He didn't take lazy guys easily, though. If you were not a worker, he didn't have time for you.
Yeah,
it's just how it was, which is fine. I like that actually. I'd rather have guys like that.
Look at what he's doing though with Bouchard. I mean, if Bouchard keeps going on this trajectory that he's on right now and turns into the star we seem to be seeing him turn into in this playoff, he's going to look back, and I'm sure that's going to be one of, if not the first influences he mentions, is Paul Coffey and how he took my career to another level.
Yeah,
because
Evan's
it's amazing. And that's not to take anything away from Bouchard or any of the other coaches, Pierre, but there's a clear difference in his game since Coffey arrived.
Yeah, no, Evans really improved. I think Desharnais has improved.
Yep.
Big defenseman. I think he's really improved. And Matthias Ekholm, is way better offensively. He's always been great defensively, but he's way better offensively. And I think that's a tribute to Paul. What they need is more consistency from Cody Ceci. They had a real good game from Ceci in Game 7 in Vancouver, and they need way more from Darnell Nurse.
I was just going to say
those two guys need to be way better.
He could be an expert.
In terms of consistency, and again, I don't know how much Paul can control that part of it, the consistency part. That's up to the player.
Right.
But no, look, this is going to be a hard series for Edmonton. It is. It is. If you were to do the tail of tape, who's better, Skinner or Ottinger?
Ottinger.
So Dallas wins that. Who has the deeper defense, Edmonton or Dallas?
Stars.
Dallas. Okay, so right now Edmonton's 0-2. Who's got the best balanced forward position?
Dallas by a landslide.
Dallas. So that's 0-3. Here's one that Dallas isn't better than Edmonton. Power play. Power play for Edmonton is better than Dallas's. So the message for Pete DeBoer, he's going to be on this.
Draw penalties.
We're not, force them to take penalties. Do not take penalties against them. So, but outside of that, Dallas on paper only, they're better.
Yeah, they are. Despite the fact that Edmonton arguably has the two best players in the world, but that's the way it is. Hey, speaking of that, the Oilers forwards, so before we move on to the Dallas side, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins deserves some credit. Not enough people are talking about him, Pierre, in my opinion, what he's doing in this playoff. And, he's been through a lot with this Oilers organization, almost traded God knows how many times, at least by the media. And I'm really impressed with the way he stood up, and he's having his best playoff performance ever for the Edmonton Oilers.
The Nuge is good because he can play center, he can play wing, he can kill penalties, he can be on your power play. I'm a big fan. I like him a lot. I always have. I remember spending a lot of time with Brent Sutter back in the day, and obviously Ryan played for Red Deer, that Brent is the owner.
Right.
And, he couldn't say a bad thing about the kid. It was really neat because Brent's pretty hard. Brent's really hard. But he was a big fan of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And because of that, I always paid a lot of attention to it. I so much respect for the Sutter family, but in particular for Brent. Really a lot.
That explains it right there. Good influence he had early on. All right, let's look over at the Dallas side. And of course, we've talked ad nauseum about Tanev, Pierre, but on their blue line, other than him, who's a guy, and let's say other than Ekholm too. I'm not Ekholm, the other guy that's playing with Tanev. Sorry.
That's Lindell?
Yeah. Yes. Other than Lindell, I want to get like a dark horse on the defense that we should be keeping an eye on, Pierre, that not a lot of people have talked about throughout this playoff run.
Ryan Suter. The only thing they talk about Suter is he's played all these games and has never won the cup. Ryan Suter's gone from playing 29 minutes a game to about 16 and a half to 17 minutes a game. He's a good player when he's playing those minutes.
Yeah.
He's a really good player. He's very useful. The problem when you play Dallas now, because of the acquisition of Tanev, there's no easy matchup. Like they can just roll. Now, in their perfect world, Lindell and Tanev get all the heavy minutes against the top players, but there's really no bad matchup for them on the back end. They don't have any bad matchup.
They remind me a lot of the 2011 Bruins, Pierre. Just the way they can roll their lines and their deep pairings.
The one thing they had in Boston, and I think you see Boychuk and Boychuk never got enough credit for how hard he played, and Seidenberg never got enough credit for how physical he was. Dennis was really physical. So you had those guys, and everybody talked about Chara, and I get it. Like, how could you not get it?
Of course.
And Ferentz was underrated too. I know he was undersized, but he was underrated too. Yeah. But those other guys, the two that I talked about, Boychuk and Seidenberg, they were nasty guys.
Rocks.
Great people away from the rink, but on the rink, you wouldn't want to play against them a lot.
No. I had lots of players during those years when Seidenberg was here, like from opponents telling me that guy is a pain in the derriere to play against.
Oh, yeah, no.
He makes you think twice when you got the puck. Trust me.
There were some collisions. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was mean. And like I was just going to say, open heights hits, he was great.
There were some collisions in front of where I worked between the benches back in those days. They were savage. They were as hard as any collisions I'd experienced over 16 years at NBC and 11 at TSN. Those were vicious collisions, and he was a big author of those collisions.
Yeah, they had some depth there for sure. And looking, we talked about the advantages that Dallas has. I think another one we got to look at is the coaching, and that's not a knock on Knobloch. It's just experience. No. It's just experience. That's it. And I really do think that so many things that he's been through and all the experiences he's had and the ups and downs, it just feels like it's all coming together right now for Pete DeBoer. It really does. You just get that sense that it's like, okay, he's sitting there saying, this is why I went through that experience. This is why I got fired there. This is why this happened. Like, everything happens for a reason, and I'm finding out those reasons right now. That's sort of the vibe I get from Pete DeBoer right now.
It's a good one. I agree. Yeah. There's a couple of attorneys in the league that are coaches. One's John Cooper down in Tampa, and the other one is Pete DeBoer in Dallas. And I'm not being smart. They're not clubhouse lawyers. They're real attorneys.
Yeah.
With the law school. So
wow.
Pete's really cold. He's calculating. He's thorough. He believes in his system. He doesn't sell out. If he believes in it, he's going to stick with it, and you got to adjust to it. He runs a very tight bench, and his players know who the boss is. And I liked what Scotty said the other day. He talked about Steven Spott. Steven Spott's he's always been Pete's right-hand man, and he's done a great job. Everywhere Pete's gone, Steven's gone, including the Kitchener Rangers. But I also know Alain Nasruddin. Pete brought him in. Alain's done a really nice job with their defense. Yeah. He's done a really, really good job with their defense. There's a lot to like there. And Jeff Reese, by the way, he played for me in Hartford. I'm a big fan of Jeff. He's done Ottinger's, he's just done a magnificent job with Ottinger.
For sure. How about you take us a little inside why the relationship between Jim Nill and DeBoer seems to be working so well?
Well, Jimmy Nill, you heard even Scotty talk about it. He's been so well trained to do this. Jimmy's first real managerial experience was in Ottawa with an expansion team. And then he left. He left when they did the three-headed monster thing in Detroit, when it was Scotty, Kenny Holland, and Jimmy DeVillano. Jimmy left to go to Detroit. And he was actually living in Glens Falls, New York.
Oh, okay.
He was doing a lot of scouting in the American League, and he was doing a lot of scouting of the East Coast League and a lot of scouting of college free agents. And then they realized this is a very valuable guy. We're going to bring him into Detroit, and they did. And he was a very important part of those Red Wings in terms of winning. Hawken, just guys that, Scotty talked about Joe McDonnell. He's right about him, really good scout. Hawken Anderson never gets enough credit. Jimmy Nill never got, which I get. Eiserman was there, Holland was there, Bowman was there, Devillano was there. It's a murderer's row of hockey people, Hall of Famers. So you're never really going to get as much credit as you deserve. But Jimmy really is a smart guy, and he was well-trained, really well-trained. And I think the same with Pete. I think the same with Pete DeBoer.
He's a good bird dog, huh?
Who, Nill?
Yeah.
No, Jimmy's a good – I've had some good times with him. I've had some great conversations with him. I'm a big fan. His son was a very good player. His son played at Michigan State. Jimmy's a hockey guy. I'll tell you one thing about Jimmy Nill. Nobody wants to talk about old players with, though. He was a tough cat.
Yeah. I was going to say, I never remember when I first started going to Bruins games, he was playing. That's when he was
shy. Jimmy was not shy.
My grandfather liked him a lot. Loved his grit. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's get up here. Let's get over to our and by the way, I'm just for those out there who care, I'm gonna take the Stars in 6 in this series. At the Rangers in 7, that can still happen, but we'll see. All right. Let's talk about our sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. We'll pull that right up here and talk about them before we get to the comments and the questions. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consultant, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. All right, what do we have for questions on a Thursday as we get ready for Game 1 of the Western Conference Final? Bill Van Vagel says, with the status of Thatcher Demko unknown with a possible lingering injury and DeSmith a UFA, do the Canucks need to bring a solid number 3 goalie or roll the dice with Sheloffs and those in their system? Well, Pierre, we were talking about this off the air the other day, but you can tell the listeners.
I think Casey's going to be looking for work. And, I wouldn't surprise me if maybe he goes back to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And we'll see how that plays out. But
Sheloffs will be the backup.
Yeah. So Sheloffs will be the backup.
Yep. That's how we think it'll play out in Vancouver. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, if you were a GM, would you be interested in Monahan and Lindholm? I'm taking it means Elias Lindholm. I'd be interested in both players. Just depends at what the price is. I think Lindholm is going to command more, Pierre. I would agree. Probably more term. Monahan could be a good depth guy. It depends on your team, how he fits. For whatever reason, it didn't work in Winnipeg. I just didn't seem to be the right fit. But, I mean, it worked in Montreal. He was a great fit there. So, yeah, I think
it's going to be interesting to watch to see what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out Vancouver signing him, Pierre.
Oh, neither would I. That's why I think there's something going on.
I do too.
Nefarious, nothing bad.
No.
Until we get to, July 1st, he's still property of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
So they can talk to him every day. They can do whatever they can create a role for him. They can show him around town, which he probably hadn't seen very much of. There's a lot they can do with him.
And Pierre, his path was like this. He rose the whole time. He started off slow, then he got better and better as the playoffs arrived. And so that's got to be impressive to management there. They're probably thinking, geez, we gave a boatload to get this guy. What the heck's going on? But when it mattered most, he showed up. So that's what I liked about him.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. He's going to be one of the fascinating guys to watch to see where he goes.
I know one team that wants him.
So let me ask you this. I'll throw it out there now. He was on the best line in the NHL a few years ago when he played with Tkachuk and he played with Gaudreau. That line was electrifying. I was in Calgary a lot. I was doing a lot of scouting then, and I was watching them. There were certain players I was watching play against Calgary and also play on Calgary at that time. And one of them was Noah Hannafin, Jimmy. But anyways, I think Lindholm is probably undervalued right now. And I just wonder, Columbus is going to have a GM at some point.
You were going to go there.
I wonder if you don't try to bring him in
and revitalize Gaudreau.
Get going with Gaudreau there and try to do something.
Yeah,
they were really good. Florida's not taking much. To your point, they're so deep down the middle now, and there's no reason. I think they got to target keeping, Sammy. Reinhart.
Yeah.
So then they're not going to have enough. No. And I don't think they're going to be able to bring Montour back. It's just going to be too expensive.
I think it's a great idea, Pierre. I think it would.
I just think Columbus, I don't know if they do it or not, but I know one thing. Johnny Gaudreau hasn't been the same player since he went there. Mm-hmm. And I think Lindholm could be a guy that could energize. I'm not saying it happens, but I do think they should explore it.
I think they should too. He could turn into Johnny Hockey again. All right, next question. Alex Ovanovsky, do you think McDavid and Draisaitl have become better defensively? Crosby, Malkin, and Ovechkin struggled with that for years until they really broke through. It's just about being good enough. One thing I'll say, Pierre, I disagree on Crosby. I think he was good defensively for when he got there. He's improved, but I think he's always kind of had that.
I'm going to disagree on Malkin. Malkin, one of the best two-way centers. He was really good defensively. Yeah. But Ovechkin really did. I mean, I did a lot of those games.
Yeah.
Sid has improved. Sid has definitely improved. Now, the question is, do I think McDavid and Draisaitl have improved? Marginally.
Not enough in my eyes.
They're elite offense. So if they're owning the puck, they don't have to play defense. The problem is teams match up all the time against them.
And in the playoffs.
You don't have the puck all the time. And then what happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's gonna that I think that's an interesting thing too. And Pierre, by the way, we've spoke about it before. Draisaitl is heading into the final season of his contract. They might come a crossroads there where they gotta figure that out. And I know it's way down the road, but that's going to be something that's going to factor in. I think it is how much has his 200-foot game improved? Is he worth what he's going to command on the open market? is he worth that to us?
He's going to get that because
he'll get it no matter what.
He's getting it. So it doesn't really. So my point is, for him, how does he want to be perceived? As a guy that made a lot of money and never won? Or does he want to be perceived as a guy that made a lot of money and won a lot?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't ever hear anybody question Messier.
Nope.
You don't hear anybody ever question, Lemieux. You don't hear anybody ever question Yager. You know what I mean? You don't hear anybody question Mullen. Those guys made money and they won a lot.
Yeah.
They won a lot.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. That's something down the line, but keep in the back of your mind. All right, next question. Mike, would it be a bad idea to bring back the skate in the crease rule? I'm not a fan, but it would remove all the controversy, goalie interference calls, and also speed up the review process. Before you say anything, Pierre, I mentioned that yesterday. I don't know if Mike saw it, but I was trying to say, that was the only time where they had something that was as close to black and white as you'll get, but that still failed. It altered her Stanley Cup final. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't go back to that, but I think the goal is to find something as black and white as you can, but I don't know how you do that. I don't know where that is.
What's wrong? When do we stop saying if you touch the goalie, you can't?
Yeah.
You can't make contact with the goalie.
By the way, Pierre, credit to Dan O'Rourke last night for explaining why that goal was. I love that. They need to do more of that, by the way.
Why? Just explain it to me. Why is that such a foreign concept? If you touch the other goalie, even if he can reset, it's no goal. Don't touch the goalie.
It's simple. That's it. Contact.
I hate to do lacrosse history lessons on a hockey conversation. Do you know why there's a goal crease in lacrosse and why people can't go in there to score? Do you know why?
Go ahead.
Jim Brown, number 44, the late Jim Brown, played football and lacrosse at Syracuse. And what he would do is he'd put the lacrosse racket right up against his chest and run right through the opposition goal. Who's going to stop him?
Yeah.
They said, we got to fix this. So they put a crease in. It's around the whole net. You can't go inside that crease. And if you do, it's no goal. It's simple.
Jeez.
So here's the one thing in hockey. Don't touch the goalie. If he is outside, if he's outside of the net, that's his problem. Then he can be touched. But if he's inside that crease area, you can't touch him.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point of having a crease?
Don't touch him. I don't know why this is that hard. I'm going to give you another one that drives me nuts because I'll never forget as a kid being at a game in Montreal, and Steve Schutt's a friend of mine, and he was a really good player. And when I was a kid, he was one of my heroes. We're number 22. He's a really good player. Okay? He took the puck, and he shot it out of the Canadian net because he had been on a long shift. It was delay a game. He did it on purpose.
Yep.
Okay? They had a rule in the book. If you shot the puck out of the net, off the ice surface on purpose, in the referee's eyes, you got a penalty.
Right.
Well, can they not determine, well, that guy really didn't mean to do that. He's going to clear the puck, and the puck hits a rut in the ice, and it bounces up and over.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we put this old puck over the glass rule. I get it. I understand. But I just think sometimes you're looking at it going, wait a second, we already had that rule in the book.
Right.
But now we've really got the rule in the book.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not always fair.
Well, I'm with you, though. I think you touch the goalie, that's it. It's no goal. Plain and simple.
Touch the goalie. It's simple. If the goalie's out of the crease, that's a different story.
Game. Yeah.
That's
his risk. That's his risk he's taking if he does that. That's fine.
Because he's probably coming out to cut down the angle.
Yeah.
Now, you can't run him over. You can't, because it would be interference.
Yeah.
You can't do the same thing to a player, right? On the
ice. Yeah.
If he doesn't have the puck, you can't just hit it. Well, maybe some referees will let you do it, but you're not supposed to hit the puck or hit the player if he doesn't have the puck.
Right.
So, I don't know.
I'm with you. It'll be interesting to see how they solve this, but it's got to be solved because it's taken up too much airtime and too many games. All right, next question. FFF asks, Tampa, Florida, Vancouver, and Boston have no first and second round picks this year. Can you see Montreal trying to possibly trade their fifth pick and an asset with an above-mentioned team for a top six forward? No, I think they keep that fifth pick.
I do too.
Maybe their other pick. if that
they
works.
might use another pick in an
23rd, right? I think they picked 23rd.
I think it's 23rd.
Yeah.
I think they could do that. But I think if where they're picking now, they're getting a player that's going to play.
Yeah.
The thing about this draft, so everybody knows, and everybody got their own opinion, 1 through 12, 1 through 13, you're in good spot in terms of real player.
Yep.
After that, you don't know. Nobody knows. But inside of that, unless you go off the board, you're going to do well.
All right. Next question. Bill Van Vagel, Jimmy, in your opinion, what arena has the best press box food drinks? Oh, you saying something about me here, Bill? I would say Bell Center, because to me, the hot dogs that you can get in the press box there, the press media room, are legendary. The way they toast the buns. I've told this story before. The first time I'm ever covering a game in the Bell Center was then the Molson Center. I'm in the elevator and my dad calls me. I think it's like one of the intermissions. And he's like, I got 2 questions for you. And one of the questions was, what'd you think of the hot dogs? So that's how legendary they are. Everybody knows about those hot dogs. So I'll always say the Bell Center is my favorite place to cover a game.
I've got a tie.
Okay.
One of them is Montreal. Obviously, the food, it's not just the hot dogs, the food's really
the food's great too.
Tampa Bay, Mr. Vinnick and his people have
done that's a good call.
Unbelievable job. There are no hot dogs there. It's really good food.
Yep.
The food is outstanding. For press room food, it's amazing. And that's not Mr. Vinnick. He's an amazing owner. He's a spectacular owner.
I'll also say some honorable mention would be Carolina at PNC.
The barbecue going?
When they do the barbecue and they get that pulled pork going, oh my God, it's unreal. It's unreal. And you know what? I'll give the team I cover. I think TD Garden does a pretty good job with their food, especially in the playoffs. They really ramp it up. I remember at the Stanley Cup Finals, we got lobster. You there for that, Pierre?
No, I know I did a lot of games, but I don't know the last time I ate food in the Boston Garden. I really don't know.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Well, you're there too early. You're there early before they even serve dinner, so you're ready to go by the time we're eating. All right, next question. And by the way, somebody corrected me. It's 26th pick that Montreal has. Kathleen, why is Bedard dropped to the 13th forward on Team Canada?
You know what? Jimmy and I were talking about this before. This is a tough tournament for kids.
I wouldn't put too much stake into it.
There's a lot of strange stuff going on at this tournament. I mean, I'm watching Will Smith. I'm watching Ryan Leonard. Connor Bedard. I don't know.
Yeah. I was just watching some of it. USA and Czech are playing.
It was 1-0 when we came on for Czech.
I'll double check it in a bit. It's still 1-0. I
scored for Czech.
Funny. So Parsonak's over there and Zaka went from the Bruins. And I guess after the first game that Pasta played in, he came out and did an interview, or I think it was an intermission interview, actually. He did an interview in the hallway there and he had his skates off and he's just airing his feet, And so the announcer, when she posted, she didn't say anything to him there, Pierre, but when she posted the video on Twitter, she said, kind of odd that he had to air those out in front of me while I do the interview. And so he saw it and he went on Facebook and he said, well, I'll tell you why. I can't find skates that fit my feet right lately and they're in pain. And so when I have the chance, I take them off and it relieves the pain. And I was like, man, did she step in at saying that?
Can I just ask you a question?
Pun intended.
you might have said it before, and I maybe didn't hear it. So was that done in the hallway by the dressing room?
Yes.
Okay. For all young people that want to be in the media, you may think that's where you work. That's not your work spot.
No, it's
you're a guest there.
Yep.
The players and the trainers and the doctors and the officials work spot.
Yep.
You're a guest there.
Yeah.
So what they do is none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions, firm, fair questions, but what they do, none of your business.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't like that. I'm glad Pasta said something.
Me too. We have to. I'm just saying, we're at a point now where you work as a player and as a coach and as a trainer and as a team doctor, that's your area.
Yeah.
And you should not have to worry about what people are going to say or write about what you do in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing, Pierre. I mean, I I don't know. I don't know who taught me. I don't remember, but the second I became a reporter, first of all, I was nervous to even be in these areas because of, the fact that it is their work area and this is like a sacred place to them. And, there's a lot of stuff that they got going on. So chances are some of these guys, the equipment managers, the trainers are going to be a little stressed because they've got so many tasks they have to achieve before the game or during the game or after the game. So for someone to sit there and just kind of judge it, or it rubbed me the wrong way. So good for Pasta.
One of the nicest things that happened, and I'd say good fortune for me and for NBC, Brian Burke was a general manager of the Anaheim Ducks in 2007 when they won the Cup. And they didn't have an inside the glass position. And that had become a real trademark position of NBC at the time. And Sam Flood and I went into the dressing room of the Ducks to visit with Brian Burke, who I had worked for and who had hired me in Hartford. And Sam just said, look, I know you're going to have a hard time digesting this. This is when the playoffs were actually going on.
Yeah.
We need Pierre to stand on your bench to broadcast the game. He'll stand at one end, far away from your head coach. He'll never interrupt you. And Berkey was unbelievable. He said, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'll go talk to my coach, Randy Carlisle. It'll be fine. Pierre, just don't share any secrets. I said, I would never do that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been down there on their position.
Yeah, but it worked amazingly well. And it worked well because Brian Burke knew that I wasn't going to disrespect the position or disrespect his organization.
Yeah.
And I've always told Brian, I'm forever grateful to you. And I know it meant a lot to NBC. And even though that series only went 5 games with Ottawa, it worked really well. And we're really grateful. Brian made a big difference in that Cup final for us.
That was great. I remember when you were doing it there. All right, next question. David Robinson. What's up, Dave? I thought Peak was going to bring what Seidenberg brought to the ice. He's talking about Andrew Peak with the Bruins. Did his injury kind of limit his ability in the postseason?
Yeah.
I think he could bring some of that, but I would never put him on the level of Seidenberg.
No, you know what? I told Jimmy when they got him, I said he's just going to be a depth player and he's going to plug and he's going to work hard, but he's not going to stand out. And he did. I thought he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
He was healthy.
I watched him play a lot at Notre Dame. I broadcast a lot of his games. I thought he was a useful player. And I still do think he is, but I didn't think he was Dennis Seidenberg.
Yeah, he's not going to be top 4 pairing ever. He's lucky to be. But he was a good pickup. I like that. I wonder what they'll do if they'll keep him. All right, next question. Hey, gents, watching the game last night, I had one recurring thought. The Panthers have been here before and the Rangers haven't. What changes would you guys make, if any, to re-energize the Rangers? A to Z me, love your brother, but I'll just let you know, the Rangers were there 2 years ago. They lost to Carolina in 7. So they've been there, just not as recent.
What I would say, what's the best way to do it? The Rangers need to be better on the forecheck. The Rangers need to be better coming out of their own zone. And the Rangers have to figure out a way to get comfortable playing a chip, chase, and check game.
Yep.
If they can't get comfortable doing that, they're going to turn the puck over too much in the neutral zone. Then they're going to be so spread out. They're going to be in huge trouble.
Yeah.
Huge trouble. Those are the 3s. And the last one, the 4th one, I'd put Rempe in. And I would just make sure Florida knew Rempe's in. You mess around. I'll give you an example. Matthew Tkachuk, if I had a team, he'd be on it immediately. But if I were running that team and I saw him hit Trocheck the way he did by the blue line, and it was a clean hit, fine. There's no.
You need somebody there to answer it.
I wouldn't tell him to fight Tkachuk.
No.
All you say is, if they hit one of our star players, when I put you on the ice, you hit one of their star players.
Yep. Within the boundaries, that's all.
That's all. You don't have to fight anybody.
Yeah.
I'm
with you.
I'll never forget it. Jay Caulfield. There was a guy trying to bug Mario Lemieux. Jay Caulfield went right up to the star player of the other team, and he went right next to his ear. And he said, tell that guy over there I'm not fighting him. But if he touches Mario again, I'm coming for you. You can see the star player go right up to the guy. Stop it. Enough's enough. Just stop.
Sean Thornton told me a couple times he did that out there to protect Bergie.
For sure he would. Dak was a fearless man. how many fights did he have in his career between the American League and the NHL? Like, it's got to be close to 500 fights.
Yeah, unreal.
And an amazing gentleman. Not nice at the rink, away from the rink. Unbelievable.
Great. Does a ton for charity. For charity.
Unbelievable.
By the way, too, Pierre, you like this stat. Rangers with Rempe in the lineup since he's come into the NHL are 23-3.
That works.
So I'm going to leave that there. Good little nugget.
Analytics people like that.
Yep. He's, you know what? That's what the eye test gets you right there. All right. Next question. Dave Dunks. Pierre, any good stories from covering the World Championships? Czechs just eliminated the USA. Oh, thanks for the update, Dave. In a really entertaining game in Prague. Awesome atmosphere. It's a great tournament for fans in Europe. First of all, I'll just say, Pierre, before you answer on Prague, loved covering hockey over there. Love that city. It was amazing. Then I've also had the pleasure to cover the World Championships up in Quebec City back in 2008. I'll just say that the greatest thing I love about the World Championships is it has a soccer feel to it, Pierre, and I think you can attest. The fans are very festive. They're singing all the time. They're partaking in some adult beverages a lot, and they're just having a good old time out there. So that's what I love about the World Championships.
And the reason why is because it's a celebration of the end of winter.
Mm-hmm.
The World Championship for most of those countries, Finland, Sweden in particular, Russia, when they were invited, it's the end of winter. And they get to go to these great places, and they have amazing beer halls. I've got so many good memories. Whether it was from in Austria, whether it was at Quebec City. I got a good one from Quebec City. The Russians won in overtime.
Uh-huh.
And, I was walking out of the rink. My partner at the time, Gordon Miller, was very good friends with Prime Minister Harper. So I had a chance to visit with Prime Minister Harper, and my family was there. The children were really young. So Justine would have been 7 turning 8, and Ryan would have been 5 turning 6. So they were young children, but they were there in Quebec City. And then we were all walking out together, and there was 2 really big guys, and in between them was a guy that runs Russia, Vladimir Putin, and he gave me one of these. How you doing? And I was like, nice to see you, sir. And the next time I saw Mr. Putin in a building,
the Olympics
in Sochi.
Yep,
it was right after the big TJ Oshie shootout game.
I'm sure he was in a good mood then.
He was not far from where I was working.
Yeah.
And after that was decided, I turned around and he didn't look happy.
Oh, no.
He didn't look happy. So those are some international hockey stories. One of the most amazing things I've ever been able to do, though, was stand on the top of the ski jump in Innsbruck with my family and look down. And when you look down from the top of the ski jump in Innsbruck, you know what you're looking through, Jimmy? Cemetery. It's unbelievable. It is just amazing to stand at the top of that ski jump in Innsbruck, and you look down and you look right into the cemetery. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I remember I met Putin at that same one in Quebec City, Pierre. And you know who I met there, though, and was still in touch, and we've had him on this show before? Michel Goulet. That was the first time I ever hung with Goo, and it was quite an experience. We had a good time.
You know what? He watches all the time. So I'm just going to say, Goo, thanks for everything. You're an amazing guy.
I love him. He's one of the best hockey people out there and one of the best people in the hockey world. Yep. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, do you think Sam Dickinson is the best overall D-man in this draft? Could he be like a Doughty, Keith, or Pietrangelo type, do everything well?
He could. To say he's the best, I think, is a stretch.
No, he's good from Michigan State, right? Is the best?
No, well, he's good.
Uh-huh.
It depends. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I think, in this one.
Okay.
But Dickinson's very good. He's going to be an NHL player. He's going to play a long time, just like those 3. Doughty, you talked about Pietrangelo, you talked about Keith.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Dunk Keith left Michigan State to go back and play in Kelowna for Mark Habscheid, and I used to run some of the practices for Mark out there. And I remember leaving the ice going, man, this kid Keith has acceleration. Holy moly, he's good.
Yeah.
And then I looked, at his background. I was like, wow, he's going to be really good, this guy. And he ended up being really good.
Oh, yeah, just a little. Just a little. By the way, I want to mention A to Z me saying to me, by the way, Jimmy, I meant winning a series going to the finals when I was talking about Florida doing something New York hasn't. So, good. Yeah, you're right. They have done that. New York has not done that since 2014. So good point there. All right, next question. What do we got? Renaissance Resistor. Hey, Pierre, longtime listener. What are your comparables for Lindstrom? And if you take physical maturity versus peers into consideration when doing player evaluations, who would be your pick as of today?
Hard to say. Really, it's a great question. It's very fair. I'm not comfortable doing that. Not that I'm trying to skirt the issue. Injuries play a role in this one. It's just not an easy one to go over. I'd have to think about it a little more. But I like the question. To do a comparable at this time is not fair. It's not fair for the kid that's involved or for me. So I'm not going to do it. But I would say this: a lot of people think very highly of the player.
That's what
I trust. That I've seen him a lot more than I have. A lot of people.
And I want to tell people too, Pierre, and I'm sure you're fine with this too. Store those questions away sometimes, because like Pierre just did, we've told you before, we don't want to answer something when we feel like we're not quite qualified enough to answer it or haven't seen the guy play enough, what have you. But store them away, because there's been times where other listeners in the comments section have come back and asked the same question down the road. We will answer it if we can. So
yeah, I just don't want to lie to you. And I don't use other people's intel. So the only thing I'll say is what guys have said to me, and then I'll pass it on. But I'm not going to say that's my intel. When people tell me something, I'll say, this is what I heard from this person or that person.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. All right, next question. Randy Workman. What's up, Randy? The goalie merry-go-round is going to be crazy in the offseason. Tell me, if you're the Devils, which goalie you're going to acquire? Markstrom, Allmark, or Saros? If I had the choice, I would do Markstrom.
Well, they've already had talks.
Yep. So there's interest.
Yeah, there's interest for sure. I don't think Boston's trading Allmark in the East.
I don't think they want to do that either. The problem is what teams are on is modified and
well, that I don't know. So I don't know that.
I have a feeling a lot of them are out west. The one thing I'd say though, Pierre, all right, Don Sweeney's probably going to not like me saying this, but I'm going to ask you if my opinion's right here. Given the fact that it's so out there right now that they're planning on trading Allmark and they got to trade him to alleviate what they're going to have to give Jeremy Swayman, and they just can't have that much money tied up between the pipes. Given those facts, if you're an opposing GM, you probably don't have to offer him a lot, right? I mean, he just wants to get this done. You might be able to get Allmark for a pretty good bargain considering his resume. So that's the only reason I might look at Allmark is like, okay, if I don't have a lot to give up, I can get a really good goalie for a lot less. Am I off there, Pierre?
No, I don't think you're off. I think the one question Donnie has to ask himself is, okay, we're not going to have the same roster next year. And clearly they're on the record. They want to go big game hunting in Boston, much like Montreal, I think, wants to. But if you don't hit the big game, you don't get that guy. Are the Devils a potential team that could knock you out of a playoff spot? I know they're in different divisions, but could they bounce you out of a wild card spot?
Of course. And would he not be motivated to do so? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at that, and I'd hesitate a little with Jersey. I think the whole thing in Jersey is going to be interesting.
Oh, very interesting.
Because, Sheldon Keefe is now the head coach there. What's he going to do for his staff? And, I've got nothing against them. I mean, I watched them play as a player, and I watched them coach as a coach. There were a lot of other guys out there that have had better records than him. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out there in Jersey.
I think they're going to be one of the most interesting teams to watch this offseason. And, I was hearing them talk. I was listening to, I forget who it was, but just listening to some sports talk radio down there. And they're just talking about, would they ever be willing to give up their first round pick? I believe they're picking a 10th. So they really feel like Fitz is weighing a lot of things right now. And he's going to be very active at the draft and in free agency or on the trade market. There's a lot that could happen in Jersey.
Well, they got to get Dougie Hamilton back. That's a big part of it. They got to keep their guys healthy. They got to hope Andre Palat can have a bounce back year. He's part of that Czech team that's overseas right now, which is probably good news for them. They have to hope that Jack Hughes can stay healthy the whole year. That's critical. And they can't have Nico Hischier getting hurt. I mean, they've had a lot of key guys getting hurt. And
they had a lot of bad luck, for sure.
Like significant injuries. Yeah. So do they have some great young players? The answer is yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do. They really do.
I think what they need, Pierre, is guys that have won. Like we've always said.
Well, they tried. They got Palat. I mean,
I know, but they need more. Give me a defenseman with a cup ring. That's what I would put there, maybe in Jersey.
You know, it's good for them. Siegenthaler's playing right now for the Swiss. They moved on today. They beat Germany, so they're still alive. So that's good that they're playing. But no, I hear you.
All right, what do we got left here? Let's finish it off here on a Thursday. State of survival. Is it true that Steve Thomas was a walk-on for the Leafs many decades ago? I remember people saying this, but I could never find anything other than he signed with the Leafs as a free agent.
Yes.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Undrafted player.
Wow. He was one of my favorite players when I was a kid, man.
Honestly,
he could write
for a reason. They called him. He was short, he was squatty, he was strong, and he was powerful, and he was tough.
Yeah.
He was tough.
He would hustle. He would hustle. I loved his game. All right, next question. Marco, are there any teams that should push for Patrick Laine? Well, I saw our man Tony Marinaro was on his podcast last night saying the Habs might be interested in him. Who knows? But I think teams should inquire. I think he could be had.
Yeah, I think he could be had.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to talk to some medical people. I'd have to do a deep dive on that.
Yeah. All right, next question. FFF. Pierre, if you had to put together a team to play on the North American ice dimensions and one for the much larger European ice surface, what differences in roster requirements would you peruse? It's a great question.
Speed. On the big ice, I'd want a ton of speed. I'd want slick center icemen that can make passes and dominate puck possession. I would want defensemen that were great first passers that didn't rim, that had really good escapability. I'd want to utilize, mostly highly skilled, fast players, but I'd always have players that could play physical without taking penalties. So that's kind of the roster I would try to put together. It wouldn't be the same as an NHL roster. It'd be a lot different.
No, I agree. All right, next question. Mike, Pierre, would love to know how much time you would put into studying a prospect during your scouting days. You didn't sleep.
Oh, man. A lot.
Yeah. Still does. Let me tell you, I can confirm Pierre still does this.
A lot. I enjoy it. So it's really not hard work.
Awesome.
It's easy
I know.
to do. Back when I first started, though, the Iron Curtain was still up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different kind of an experience. I had great trips to Sweden, awesome trips to Finland. I really enjoyed going back. It was Czechoslovakia back then. I really enjoyed going. There was such a hope and a desire for the countries to change, and eventually they did. And, you went into Russia, and it was a really different – the first time I went to Russia compared to the last few that I'd been, a lot different.
Yeah.
In a good way, a better way. Now I was supposed to go when the war started with Ukraine, and I couldn't get a visa to get in. I was going to St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go to St. Petersburg, and I couldn't get into the country. So, I haven't been there in a couple of years, so I can't speak to what it's like now. But my last couple of visits there were very good. They were very good.
Quick question on that too, before we move to the last two here. Did you make it a point when you would go into these European countries? Because back then, we didn't have all the assets we have to scout from afar.
No.
Would you make it a point to meet somebody that's always there, a boots on the ground guy, a local that you could form relationships with, and find a guy you could trust there that would give, hey, you want to know what this guy did tonight? That guy you were looking at when last time, did you have people like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was who used to run European scouting, Joran Stube, from Finland. He was phenomenal. Joran was really good. And you could call him up before there was all this email and texting and everything else. You could call him up and, just say, you know what, Joran, I'm coming in. I'm going to stay at the Hesperia Hotel in Helsinki, and I'd like to see, 10 games and 8 nights. Can you give me a schedule?
Yeah.
And he would. He was great.
That's great.
and he would give you tidbits. That Murphy kid in just say at IFK Helsinki is a really good player. And that Ole Jokinen kid that's playing at IFK, watch him. He's got a little bit of Yager in him. Like, he'd give you tidbits about players, and then he was really good. Yarn was great. He was great. And then I had a couple really good trips with Kent Nielsen. Ken was,
cool.
He was a great player. Kenta knew a lot he was really good back then. He did a lot.
Yeah.
He was good. I enjoyed spending
It
time.
seems like that would be a great idea to do, like to make that happen and have those
Yeah,
contacts.
there were always people you could talk to, but I tried to get to be friends with the coaches of the teams because I had coached in college for a long time. I had tried to become friendly with the coaches.
All right, next question. A to Z me. Slavkovsky leading all U20s in points at IHF Worlds. Do you find that a little surprising? Because I don't. I think the kid's going to be a beast. Nope.
The only thing I have, because I was studying those stats today, he had 7 games played. He had 0 goals and 7 assists. I don't think the Canadians, even though he's a playmaker, I get it. I think the Canadians have him more as a scorer, like a finisher. So that's the one, and he is going to be a beast. Jimmy, I think you would agree. I've probably been his biggest supporter, but I'm concerned this is not an elite world championship tournament. It's not. And so why do you have more goals? Because he has not.
Do you think he maybe subconsciously fell back into a more passive approach because it's not a great tournament?
I don't know.
I'm just wondering. I'm just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
But if I were the Canadians, I'd be happy that he was still playing. I'd be happy that now I know that they're out of the tournament now, but I'd be happy that he played this much, which is good. Really,
I think the world of him too. He is going to be a stud. All right, next question. Evan McLaren. What's up, Evan? Why does the stereotype of the sissy European persist in hockey? How are we not past that? Yeah. I think I know we're gonna leave the name out, but we know that some things happened on social media last night that weren't acceptable. I'll just put it that way. I don't know, Evan. Pierre and I had this conversation earlier today.
Peter Forsberg was as tough as any man I ever saw play. Nick Lidstrom was as tough as any guy, and I'm telling you right now, Daniel Alfredson, tough guy.
That guy Al Samuelson was pretty tough too.
I was saving him to the end.
Not letting me take your thunder.
Esa Tikkanen was a tough guy. I mean, you go look at Jari Kurri was a tough guy. Like, these were big, strong men.
Look at one of the guys you just mentioned, Pierre, that I covered forever, Dennis Seidenberg.
So no, I'm with Evan on this. I don't know why this still persists. I'm not trying to be, sucking up to our questioners or our listeners or our viewers. I'm just telling you, I spent a lot of time over there, played over there.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Whomever has that opinion, I would respectfully try to debate them, but I wouldn't agree with them. I would not.
No, it's, in my opinion, it's just sort of a lazy way of scouting a player.
Jimmy,
Tell me why you don't think he's physical.
I went to training camp at the New Jersey Devils in the early 1980s as a player. They had a guy named Jan Ludwig. Okay. Yanni lives in the interior of BC. His son is a player for the Pittsburgh Penguins now. He's a defenseman. Yanni Ludwig was a tremendous scout. And I'll just tell you right now, he's as tough as any guy I ever saw.
Yeah.
And trust me, I don't mean tough body checking. He could fight. You want to go fight? Go try to fight him.
Yep.
He's a tough guy. So I have a problem.
We agree.
That stuff.
It's a false narrative.
Just generalizing those situations is not fair. It's not fair to all the guys that have done such a good job.
Yeah. And as a reporter, I want to tell you, I want to tell our listeners, I want to tell our viewers or my readers why I think this guy isn't physical. What is it about? Like, I want to just focus on the player. I don't care about his nationality. Yeah. I care about him, the individual. That's it.
Yeah.
So, all right, next question. Stakar O'Gord. If somehow both Lindstrom and Demidov, I see what you did there, buddy, are available at number 5, who does Montreal pick?
I don't know. I don't know. I still think here's the one thing. They said it on our show, and I know people don't want to talk about it, but we had Ken Hughes on. We have Jed Fortin on. And both of them have sons playing at BU. And they know what Jay Pandolfo does. Cole Eisman's going to Boston University. So I'm going to say, like, they're not getting a player that's coming right in to play in Montreal. They're going, whomever they draft is going back to play somewhere else. I don't know. I think scoring's at the top of the list for the Canadiens, is it not?
It is. I know.
We'll see.
I'm with you, Pierre. I'm with you. It's going to be interesting. And we will hopefully be doing some broadcasting from there. We'll have more details on that hopefully soon. I'm definitely going to be heading out to Vegas for the draft, and hopefully I will be joined by Pierre, and we'll do something from there. And I want to tell nothing, we don't have all the plans detailed yet, but Pierre and I will be doing a special free agent show, wrapping up the first day of the free agent frenzy on July 1st. We're actually at a perfect time, Pierre, as you pointed out, because a lot of those guys are doing it well. A lot of shows you have are doing it well. It's going on, but there really isn't much reaction shows afterwards. And so we're psyched to be in that time frame there. We can give you some instant reaction, kind of wrap up the day and look ahead to what should be a busy off season for a lot of teams. So we'll have more details on that in the coming days. But Pierre, good stuff today. I liked our insight on the Dallas Edmonton, and I'm looking forward to those games. I do think it's going to be a fun series to watch.
Stanley Cup Central tonight on YouTube channel.
All right. Now, Pierre, by the way, because I want to is it NHL Network YouTube channel, or is it just like YouTube? You can just put in search.
I think I don't know. That's a good question.
We'll find out, and I'll tweet that out so everyone knows. Because I want to.
It's a great question. I don't know, but we had a blast last night. It was really good. Jason Demers is working with us.
I love Jason.
He's funny. He's smart.
Yep.
He really understands the game. Obviously, he was a good player, but he makes it entertaining. He makes it fun. He's really fun to be around. He's good
stuff. Now, you guys are doing this like during the games?
Yeah. We started tonight. It'll start at 8:30, and we'll probably be off by 11:30. Whatever.
And can viewers go in and ask questions and stuff?
It's all. Yeah.
Okay, great, good stuff. All right. Well, good luck. Enjoy that, Pierre. To everyone in our viewers section and your comments, your questions, thank you for that. To our production crew up in Montreal, we love you. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. We'll talk to you on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network tomorrow.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.